Let's go ahead and install the rear signal lights that and the tail light. This is for the countries that don't allow running and signals. So in those situations you need the amber lens. And then let me show you how to change out the lens on this. It's real simple. All you do is just find that little slot and then just put the screwdriver in there and give it a twist. And the lens just comes right off. Then you can change the bulb and then just pop it back on. Okay, let's get started. We supply this crimper in your kit. Now, it's kind of a cheap, cheesy crimper, but you know, it actually works quite well for what we're going to do here. So, and we supply it because the crimper portion here actually flares the plastic around the connectors less, which makes them easier to put together. So, okay, first of all, what we want to do is we want to adjust this screw here. Adjust that so that this moves fairly easily. And then go ahead and put some oil in there. Just put some oil in here, because these things are stiff from the factory. We want it to work nice and smooth. Okay, then after you do that, then if you'll notice, and I'm going to put it kind of close here, the crimper that we want to use is this one right here. There's kind of a U-shaped one right there. We don't want to use that. It's the first kind of a square one right there. Because we want to use that because it crimps down smaller. So go ahead and put a piece of tape on there and mark that one. The one above won't crimp tight enough. I'll show you the other side. So that's one we want to use. Then also on the stripper, we want to mark the 18 gauge. Just put a little piece of tape on that too. Sometimes you'll have to use the next one to it, but go ahead and mark that too. And then let's get started. We'll make this work. Okay, I'm going to just show you how it works real quick. You probably know this already, but what we do is we strip about 3/8 or so off the end of the wires when we put the connectors on them. So I'm going to put that in the 18 gauge slot there. And sometimes you have to rotate it once. Then just go ahead and pull that. And that exposes the wire. Okay, I'll show you how to crimp this next. Okay, this is the male connector. So there's a crack in the connector right there. I usually put that opposite the male, this little prong here. I put that opposite. Now what you want to do is you want to shove it so that there's that little shoulder right there. It's about even with that edge of the crimper, like that. Then just go ahead and put your wire in there. Okay, now really crimp it tight. I mean, squeeze it as hard as you possibly can. Really, really hard. Just as hard as you can. What that'll do, that'll make sure you pull on it really hard. That puts a nice crimp on that. Okay, I'll do the female end next. Okay, on the female crimpers, or the connectors, we run this square edge against the crimper like that. Then go ahead and insert your wire. Then there again, to squeeze as hard as you can. Don't be afraid to crimp that really hard. If you can't do it, get your wife or your girlfriend. They'll be able to squeeze it hard enough. So anyway, there you go. Now there again, pull on it really hard. Make sure it's crimped really well. And there you have it. Okay, let's get started. Okay, first let's lay the lights out on a bench. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut the wires off to 14 inches long. That's from the light to the end. And then after you do that, go ahead and take a little knife and just get the end started. Then that'll peel back. You can peel 3 or 4 inches of that insulation off. And go ahead and cut that off right there, and that'll expose the wires. Next, what we want to do is we want to strip the ends of the black and the purple wires. Black and purple, and not the blue. Let's don't worry about the blue at all. We're not going to use the blue wire. The purple is the flasher and the black is the ground. And then what we want to do is we want to go ahead and put these connectors on like I showed you. Just go ahead and crimp those really tight and put those on there. So what we're going to do is we're going to do let me pan in on this. Okay, we're going to do the female on the black and the male on the purple. So do that on both wires, black and purple. And then in your kit there's a picture you can refer to also. So go ahead and do that and then we'll continue on. Let's go ahead and do the tail light now. If you'll notice, I've cut the wires and I've joined them black to blue, red to red, and white to black. And then the total length from the tail light to the end of the connector should be 23 inches when you get finished. Now, one thing that's really important on this is you've got to do these splices here before you do the ends. And then we're going to go ahead and use these small butt splicers. I like that word, butt splicer. And I'll show you how that works. Here's your heat shrink tubing. So we'll do these first and then these. Oh, and then go ahead and refer to your picture on this too. We have a picture in your kit. Okay, I've used the butt splicer, and I've used the same crimper that we showed you before. The one right next to it, too, that little barb, that works good, too, if you want to give them a fine little crimp on that little barb section there, because the more you put a little barb dent in that butt splicer, the better it works. So go ahead and do that, and then pull on them, make sure they're nice and tight. Then I'll show you how to put the heat shrink on. Okay, I'm using a heat gun to do this. Now, you want to get it hot to where it shrinks up really nice on the wires. Now, you can also use a hair blow dryer, and just be careful. Don't get it, you know, with a hair blow dryer, you probably want to get it too hot, but with a heat gun, you can get it too hot and actually burn the wire. So, and then this is the type of heat shrink that has adhesive in it. So once you get it cooked on there really nicely, it'll hold the wires together too. So go ahead and do this first, and then put these connectors on the ends. Now, you'll notice the two males here, males, and then on the black, we've got a female. That's real important. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of electrical tape here, 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 and here, just to keep these kind of together, so when we put them down inside that fender, they stay together. Let's do the license plate light next. On the license plate light, what I've done first is I put some heat shrink here, leave these ends open, and we're going to put the small butt splicers on there. You can just crimp these ends only, but leave these ends open. And then I run that heat shrink as far up into the light as I can there. And don't get it too hot there. You don't want to melt this plastic housing. Okay, let's go ahead and finish these up now. What we want to do is we want to run red to blue and black to black. And then make sure on the ends, go ahead and do these first again. Make sure you do these, heat shrink these before you do these. Then we've got the female on the black and the male connector on the blue. And then, okay, your overall lengths on these wires are, okay, 24 inches long if you're going to use the rear mount. This is not painted. And then 13 inches long for the wires if you're going to use the side mount. So there you have them. Like I say, do these first and then the ends. And then we'll go ahead and tape these up and then we're ready to go. Okay, and there I have it. I've taped the wires just in several spots there. And then one thing, refer to your picture on this too, because we have a picture of this in your kit also, and it'll help you a lot. Let's mount this bad boy. Let's go ahead and mount the license plate light to the license plate bracket. Now this is how it mounts onto the rear mount. You'll notice this slopes down like this. And then if you'll notice, we've got in your kit, we've got the screws here. Use those, and don't get them too tight. Just snug them up, but they can still turn a little bit after you're tight. This is just plastic, so don't get too carried away there. And then, if you look at the back side, now what I've done is I've run a wire tie through this hole right here, because later on, after I mount this, you're going to have to do that ahead of time before you mount it to the tail section. Otherwise, you won't be able to get that on there. And then later on, we'll go ahead and run that through once we mount this. So go ahead and do that. And then the other thing I forgot to mention before is I put a little tape on these wires too. Just leave the ends open like that. This is how it'll look when you mount it to the tail section here. You'll notice the license plate comes out the back like that. I'll show you the angle of that. That's how it is. Okay. And then, I haven't bolted this on, but this is basically what it'll look like. You'll have the screws in here, and then your wires will come up through here and wire tie both wires. And then if you don't run the license plate on the back, make sure you run the wires up, because they usually come out one direction on this taillight. So make sure they go up because you want clearance for the tire in here. And then you'll run one way and one the other. I'll explain that in a minute. Okay, and this is how it'll mount to the side mount license plate bracket. So if you'll notice on this, the wires come through the back, through that hole, through the side hole, and then out. And this will be the shorter wire. This is a long one, but be sure and use the shorter wire on these on the side mount. Let's put these on this motorcycle. Let's make this bad boy look real good. Next, let's go ahead and put the connectors on the end of these wires. Now, the black and yellow wires, the 4 black and yellows, get the male connectors, and then the rest of them get the female. And you can go ahead and refer to your picture that we gave you in your kit, and that'll help you on that. So go ahead and put those on. Make sure and squeeze them really tight and make sure they're on there really well. Let's go ahead and mount our signal lights now. Now change out the lens to the amber on the back. On these, when they're signals only, they need to be amber. So change that out, and then we'll bolt the lights on the brackets here. You'll notice the wire goes through that little slot. And then, okay, this the light and the black spacer, and then the bolt and the washers are on the inside. And then the wire goes to the slot, and then it runs up through here and into here. Let me show you that. And then the wires run into the compartment there. I'm going to show you the wiring without the tail section on the bike. But, okay, now refer to the other sections of the video on how to mount all this stuff. If you do run the tail mount license bracket, then be sure and run the wires from the license light. It goes this way, and the tail light wires go this way. So remember that. The license light goes, the wires go this way, the tail light this way. And then on the side mount, obviously the wires will go this way. Now I've run all the wires up through the, now what I've done is I've put the wire tie on here, and I've just used this inside hole, not the outside. So you can leave these loose and run your wires up through here. So I've got your license plate light goes through this side, either, you know, tail mount or side mount. Run them through here. It'll hold the wires up against the plate here. And then on this side, you'll run the tail light wires up through the wire tie. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll and then the reason you want to run the wires to the sides is the tire comes up in this area, and you don't want that tire to hit the wires. And then another thing I'd like you to do too, see how the wire comes out of the tail light and goes up? Mount it like that, not like that. That'll keep it away from the tire. It's time to hook up these wires. What we want to do is we want to separate them out according to the schematic that you have in your kit. Now if you'll notice on this, what we want to pay attention to is the wires coming from the bike. And if you'll notice, what we want to do is we want to divide them into sides. So we're going to do the right side first, and we're going to separate the gray, the blue, the 2 black and yellows, and then the red and blue on the right side. And then on the other side we'll do the green, the 2 black and yellows, and the red and blue on the left side. So let's go ahead and do that. That's what I've done here, is I've just taped these off into this section. This is the right side according to the schematic, and then this is the left side. And then also you'll notice I've taped off the wires coming out of the bike. This is the signal light and the tail light wires here, and then this is the left tail light and the license plate light wires on this side. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll go ahead and plug these bad boys in. Man, we're about finished here. This is cool. So anyway, okay, let's go ahead and plug these wires in. Now, if you'll notice, we've got 5 wires on the right side and 4 wires on this side. Now, go ahead and plug them in according to the colors on your schematic. So you go ahead and follow these colors and then plug them in. Worst case, all you have to do is switch a couple of wires around. It shouldn't blow a fuse or anything. Hopefully this thing will work just fine the first time. If not, just switch them around and double check your schematic. And then you can plug them in lightly for now. Keep them separated, left side and right side. And then we'll go ahead and try the bike. Okay, turn your key on, and hopefully this is what you'll see. You've got the license plate light working. Notice that. You got the tail light on. And I've turned this blinker on just to show you. It should blink super bright. Okay, pull your brake lever. and everything works. So let's go ahead and tuck these wires in. Okay, let's button this up. Gosh, we're done. It works. Everything's nice. Okay, before we go too much further, let's just go back and double check, make sure all these are pushed in all the way. Push really hard. Make sure they're pushed in all the way on your connectors. And then what I've done is I just wire tied this here. I've kind of looped it around back this way to keep it compact in here. And then put a wire tie here. And then I put one right here to kind of hold all of them to right there. I just wire tied this one to this wire tie. And then I put one more wire tie right there. What we want to do, we just want to make this kind of compact and neat and tidy in there, so when we take our seat on and off, it won't interfere. And then make sure you leave your battery compartment open, because you have to take this battery in and out as you replace that. So, and then the only other issue would be these blue wires. You can either leave those there, or if you're sure you'll never want to run running wires, you can just snip those off. There's two wires, blue wires on each side. Make sure they're blue and not purple. And then the last thing is go ahead and tighten these wire ties on the back, so all your wires run nice and neat and tidy and into this compartment. So there we have it. Gosh, this thing works great. Let's move on to the headlight, and then we're finished with the wiring.